Hey, well, welcome to another edition of the Mile High Real Estate Podcast, Spotlight Podcast. And so we are here for another great episode today. I have Steve, which is a local Denver realtor that has done some phenomenal job. He's been an appraiser for many years. So he has a different perspective than some of the other perspectives that we've seen on the show. And so one of the things that we just always want to remember is that you have the ability to do this. And so the reason that we put these shows on is so that you can be able to pick and choose the right realtor that is going to be the fit for you. The person that has that advantage. And so I love these conversations. I love being able to talk to people, because what I realize is there are a lot of good people that are out working for you. And I spend my time choosing the folks that are on the show carefully. I want to make sure that they are working for you, that they are not just limited to maybe one neighborhood, or they're not limited to doing transactions super fast, or what we call transactional real estate, where it's about you and me, and then we go see how much money that I can make, and then we get through that. Being on the lending side, I want to make sure that you get exactly what you need to get done on my side. But on the realtor side, I just want to make sure that we find some really good people. And Steve is one of those people. And so, Steve, thank you for being on the show today. We appreciate you spending time. And know right now, as the time that we're recording this, it's really cold outside. And, Steve's been outside just doing some work today and cleaning out panels and, just helping people in the community, Steve. And so would you please just first tell us how to get a hold of you? And then maybe we can go into, about you and how you got involved in this business.
All right. Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity, first of all. It's very nice of you, and I really appreciate it. My name is Steve LaPorta. My cell phone number is 303-525-0640. That's 303-525-0640. You can also reach me via email. It's steve@perfectdenverhomes.com. So that'd be steve@perfectdenverhomes, that's a plural.com.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm just going to start with this question, because you said it was denverperfecthomes.com. And so I'm thinking, how do you find somebody the perfect home? I mean, I'm going to get into your story a little bit, but since you brought that up, I just jumped right into that question. What is it that you can do? Because that's so unique. I love that title, because it's got to be perfect for the person who's moving into it, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've realized over time working with clients is it's never black and white. And what they first start out to do, or what their plans are initially, may not be what they end up purchasing in the end of the process. So I think a big part of that process is, you go look at homes. And when you go look at homes, you're able to at least eliminate some of the homes that you definitely don't want, which helps bring a little clarity to the thought process when deciding on what home to choose. So for me, that's always been a really important part of. I don't consider that a waste of time. I consider that something that's going to actually help them in the process, make it a little bit cleaner for them when they get down to the decision-making part of the process.
So is it real evident when somebody walks in, you can tell exactly what they don't want? Is that like more obvious than
yeah. Body language is important, right? So paying attention to those little cues and what they're able to tolerate and not tolerate. A lot of times you can show them a really good value on a property that's not maybe remodeled, or it's not a total fix up at the same time, that tweener property, right? And at that time, you get an idea of who has vision, who doesn't have vision, and that'll help you in the process of what you need to show. If somebody doesn't have any vision on what it could possibly be, or doesn't want to put that time and effort into it, then you're going to just show remodeled properties, because that's what they're looking for, whether they know it or not. They may say they're not, but after you show enough homes that are the tweeners, you get an understanding of what they're looking for. So,
that's so cool. I'm glad you're able to do that and be able to see that. Let's jump back into, how did you get involved in this? What, maybe a little bit about your background. Did you grow up in this area, or did you come from another place? Tell us all about you.
Yeah, well, I grew up in upstate New York, and basically a leather mill town, which which I think helped grounded me and as well as created some work ethic. Once I worked in the leather mill doing some of the tasks involved with doing that, every job in my life's been easy since then, and I've spent time on a roof as well. So I think that's helped shape my work ethic and a little bit of fearlessness going forward in terms of jumping into whatever work I'm involved with. So I've been out in Colorado since 1984. My wife had gone to grad school a year before in Eugene, University of Oregon, and it rained 28 days in a row. We decided we would find a sunnier place to live. And so Colorado, with 300 days of sunshine, became kind of a target for us. And we haven't looked back since. Love living out here, love the Colorado activities, Colorado weathers, and the opportunities that it's presented for me. So.
Well, cool. And I know you were telling me earlier when we started that you're in that, spend a lot of time in that Park Hill area.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was born, my parents lived off of 20th and Oneida. And so,
Okay.
right there. And then we moved out to like Arapahoe Road, 925, where I grew up. So I went to Cherry Creek High School. And then like literally, I went to college in the fall of 83. And so they moved into a house on 6200 Camaria, like right after I lived. So they lived there for a while, and then so back and forth. So it's been part of my upbringing and background, and knowing the area really well. What do you think makes you like an exceptional agent in that area, knowing that area?
Well, and it's not just specifically to that area. It's my attention to detail when it comes to market and market principles and how they affect your overall transaction, whether it's negotiating for inspection items or what you need to look at when getting your offer accepted. And, and I immerse myself in the markets. I even accept a lot of junk emails just to see what other agents are doing in terms of price reductions. To get even a better handle on it. The real estate market, in my experience, turns on a dime. And you well know as a lender, right? Increase in interest rates have really affected our market this past year.
Oh, gosh,
right?
yeah.
And I can tell you, if I just look at a 7-day market analysis, every time the rates go down a little bit, you're going to see an increase of pending or under contract properties, just with that 7-day analysis. So what I use market information for is, like, I have a client that put a house on the market. Interest rates have gone up since then. So now I got to do a little comparative look at what the buying power was when we first went on the market versus what it is now, and using today's interest rate, right? And then bringing that information to my clients, and if they're listening, we'll probably do a price adjustment at that point in time, because the buying power has actually changed during that time period. And I've had a lot of success just educating my clients on the market factors that have an effect on their transaction. So I really spend a lot of time paying attention to that. I have many brokers over the years that come to me with pricing problems or issues that they don't know how to handle or deal with. And different ways to look at value. There's value in use. There's external influences on properties, which doesn't knock a property out, but you have to have an understanding of how that affects your property in the long term. If you're an investor buying a property that has an external influence, like a feeder street, high traffic location, if you buy during a down period in the market, you'll probably get a 15 to 17, 20% discount on that property. If you sell in a hot market where the hit is only about 3%, that differential of what percent that property would be impacted is additional profit for you on that. You have to have the ability to hold it and sell it when you want it. So do I recommend that for a primary occupancy for property? No, right? But if you have a long-term plan, I've had a client that purchased a property like that in Northwest Denver, ended up renting it, cash flowing it for a while after he lived in it initially. and then ended up making a very large profit when he sold at a high demand time. So
Okay.
it's just it's stuff that's not apparent to most brokers just because they're not in that world all the time, and that's kind of like where I live. So one of my goals as a broker is to provide that information for my clients so they can make the best possible decisions for themselves. So
that is so. I mean, I love where you're at there. It's so important to be able to have those statistics and those things, and that I think that comes with experience over years and doing it and looking at those numbers. Not only looking at those numbers, understanding those numbers,
right.
and so and how they work and how they interact. And I love that that's what you're doing and how you're putting that together. With that said, and all the things that are happening and the changes that are happening, and I know I'm asking you to put on a crystal ball, which you don't have, but if we look at history as being an indicator of what can happen in the future, what are some of the things and the trends that you see over this next year that may or may not help folks that are looking to either sell property or buy property?
Well, since you brought up history, right? If you go back and look at public records and histories on properties, you're going to see overall there's a value increase, in the, just about everywhere, because land is limited, right? It's a resource that's still in demand, and that demand is always going to create some value. Factors that affect the market are usually much bigger than just localized factors. They're usually big factors, like what happened in 2007, 2008. Those are factors that were even beyond the borders of the U.S. But they did affect everybody in the market, right? And so, being able to predict what's going to go on is very difficult. What I would say is, like, buying, you're going to be buying in certain market conditions. The ability to refinance when rates are better to help you with your monthly payments is great. Over that period of time, just paying down a mortgage is going to build equity, right? If we buy a property for $100,000 and we have, we're paying off that debt during that time period, whereas renting is never going to be a good option for you during that time period, because you're never going to build any kind of equity. You're just giving money to somebody else to build equity. And so I'm hopeful that interest rates actually, start to come down a bit this next year. I think that the Fed, their target is that 2% rate, right? Which I don't know if that's realistic anymore, because there's worldwide factors that control the inflation rate more than anything else at this point in time. Anytime we see something like a war in Ukraine, right, we see how that affects, like, oil being delivered to, or natural gas being delivered to Europe, which affects the cost of things. Mm-hmm. And that raises, inflation here. So my hope is that the Fed looks, believe when they came up with the 2% number, it was kind of arbitrary. Right. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that they have a bigger view of things going forward, and we kind of balance things out. Now, are we going to see 3%, 2.5% anymore? It took a long time to get there the first time, so I don't see that happening too quickly. So.
I think that was like the clearance sale, the fire sale. Everything came into the mix that said, "Hey, we're going to be at this, these rates." And and sometimes I think they, as they're trying to fix inflation or stop inflation, if we can say, "Hey, if we're going to come down 2%, then you should wait," because they're still wanting us not to put as much money and stuff. So sometimes you just get, when you watch the media, that you just kind of get scared. I specialize in reverse mortgages, and, and I tell seniors all the time, the reason we're doing this is because you have a need, and that need, we need to help and make that need happen, whatever the market's doing, and so, and I other folks that are like, "Hey, I got, 6 kids and we're living in a 2-bedroom. You have a need. And so waiting for the rates to jump back down to 2.5%, why, your kids, it just seems to be silly sometimes.
Right.
What would you say, I know you've been an appraiser for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How has that helped you, become a better realtor for the folks that you're working on? Because it's a unique set of skills that not every real estate agent has. And I know it's got to enhance your business a little bit.
Well, I'll give you an example. Like when the market was really hot, right? And we had a lot of competitive offers coming in and a lot of appraisal gaps. One of the tools I used was, I reached out to the properties that were under contract, right? That were very good comparables for the property that I was writing a contract offer on. And I'd find out what they were under contract for. So if I found out that they were above list price at that point in time, I know we had a little bit of a buffer there with regards to the appraisal gap. And so what I would do is provide that information to my clients to make sure that they were comfortable with it, first of all, right? Because that's an aggressive offer when you're writing an appraisal gap. As you, as a lender, well know, right? We wanted to appraise at the contract price at the very least, right?
Yes.
If it appraises more than that, that's awesome. But that's the bare minimum. And so having that knowledge ahead of time, knowing that appraisal gap was going to be met because these properties were going to close prior to even when our appraisal was going to be ordered, I was able to get clients in with a more aggressive offer, knowing that they would be fine with the financing end of it. And that's something, you can't always predict what another appraiser is going to do because it's always an opinion of value. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the basics involved with the appraisal process and are able to make a decision off of that, it's going to enhance your client's ability to write an offer that's going to be accepted and protect them at the same time.
Well, that's huge, and think about, hey, I can protect you through the process, because it's a process that, many people don't know a lot of. I mean, we don't buy like a house every week. Most people don't. I mean, there's probably some people who do, but most of us are like, 4 or 5 times in a lifetime or something like that, or sometimes for people 1 time in a lifetime. So it's not something we do so often, and being able to help somebody through that process, I'm sure is a huge advantage that you have. What do you like most about being an agent? What are some of your favorite, maybe even a client story would be great.
First of all, the personal relationships you develop during the process, right? It's a high stress process for them a lot of times. And what you can do to relieve that stress and provide information is a big part of why I like doing this. And then as an asset is just, I'm always trying to educate my clients so they can make the best decisions for themselves. It's not my job to make them make a decision, but it is my job to provide them the best information that they could possibly have to make the right decision for themselves. And where that, it comes into play a lot of different ways. Like say I'm working with an investor client, right? I'm going to show them value of the property now, value of the property as repaired or remodeled at the end of the process, and be able to do that with a high level of confidence so they can make the right decision for themselves. Like, let's talk about, say, like a fix and flip market right now, right? It's not really a great fix and flip market right now, right? Prices have not really gone down. The spreads are thinner and thinner and thinner, right? And you'll see in this particular market, there's a lot of remodeled houses that go through multiple price reductions, right? Every flipper that I've ever worked with, that does the remodeling, always thinks that their property is worth more than everybody else's, And so you have to temper them with what's realistic. So at the end of the process, their expectations have been met. If you put out the rosy picture that you're going to get the highest price in the neighborhood, and that doesn't happen, that's going to be a disappointed client, and maybe their margins are not going to be enough for them to stay in business. So that's a really important part of the process when you're dealing with, say, investors. Same thing with a first-time home buyer that may want to do some repairs themselves. I'm able to actually help them understand what the value of that property would be after they do it. My appraisal background helps me with that because I know what contributes to value and what doesn't. Think about a roof on a house, right? It could cost you 15 to 20 grand to put a roof on your house. Is that going to bring 15 to 20 grand of value? No, because your house is just like everybody else's house with a good roof. So
yeah, exactly. It's just,
all you do is bring it up to what it should be, right? And that's it. So that. Whereas if you do a kitchen remodel, that's probably going to bring you a better return on your investment, right? Again, you need a functioning roof on a house, but that just brings you up to everybody else. That's all it does. So
yeah. Oh, that is so good that you brought that up. Maybe you just for the sake of the show, maybe if you could just give us maybe 5 different things that would increase the value in a house, just because that's kind of your background and that would help somebody.
Yeah, well, you have to kind of pay attention to market trends, right? Okay. What's going on, what people are actually paying for. And one of the best tools that I use for that is I just use comparison, right? 2 similar properties. I'll just use Park Hill as an example, right? I'm in a 1923 bungalow. Pretty common in Park Hill. Let me look at a 1923 bungalow that hasn't been updated and one that has been updated, right? I'll see what's in there, right? I'm not trying to reinvent things. And I'll see what the value was when that property sold versus the other property sold. And that'll give me what the contributory value of that is. So let's say it's opened up floor plan and remodeled kitchen and baths, right? That's going to give me a good idea with that value difference of those 2 properties in similar locations, what that's going to bring to you in terms of overall value in the process. So one of my rules of thumb is, look at the market information. Don't ignore it just because you don't like what it says, right? And so to get your clients to understand that as part of the process so they can make a more informed decision for themselves is a big part of what I do in the real estate industry. So,
but Steve, I watched the show and they told me if I did this and this and this, that I was going to make $80,000 more on this house.
Right. Well, one of my pet peeves with those shows are, first of all, they're not realistic because they're labor costs, and I mean finding a good contractor, right? Most people don't hand out their contractors information because finding one is very, very difficult. Somebody you can trust that's going to get the work done in an appropriate amount of time, right? They're always looking for the next job. So it's a difficult industry when it comes to that. The other thing is when I'm looking at those, right, there's some obsolescence with the property usually. It's either functional obsolescence, like the floor plan is dysfunctional, right? Or there's external obsolescence, just pay attention the next time you're watching one of those shows. Are there double yellow lines on that street that's in front of that house, right? And that's where we get back to that external factor that I talked about earlier, right? In the hot market, right, you can remodel that and make a decent profit. Now that person owns that house and they have to sell at a down market. They're going to take an additional hit for that, right? Okay. But flippers look for those type of properties that have some sort of external influence or obsolescence, right? And that's how they make their money, right? Yeah. Bringing it up to kind of a better market standard. But at the same time, you got to be aware of how that's going to affect your resale in the future, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. People don't think of that all the time. And, I hear all these people that, they watch the shows and they say, oh, I'm going to be a flipper now. I'm just going to go find a piece of property. And then I'm like, okay, so you're in the Denver market right now. And you're going to go down to Capitol Hill and you're going to find a house that you're going to flip, right? Okay. Yeah. So it just makes sense. Well, we are already, kind of at the time that, that we've allotted for this, and this has been so informative. And I thank you, Steve, for being a part of it. Can you tell everybody one more time how to get a hold of you? That would be great. And any other closing thoughts you have?
Okay. Obviously, my number is 303-525-0640. I make it a rule to try to pick up my phone when somebody calls because that's the business I'm in. Again, it's Steve, Steve, at perfectdenverhomes.com. And that's a plural on the homes. But then, in closing, one of the things I try to provide for my clients, obviously, is the best information that they can possibly have for their decision-making process. Also like to work with first-time home buyers, just helping them with the process and then helping them make the best decision for themselves with regards to some of the things we talked about in terms of external influences. A lot of times a first-time home buyer is just trying to get into a property and they overlook some of those things that are going to probably hurt them down the road. And I make that a big part of what I do, looking out for their best interests, not in this transaction, but transactions in the future, whether I'm their representative or not. So I think that's.
Yeah, well, thank you. And, Steve, I can tell your superpower is absolutely information, and so if you are looking for a home, or you're looking to sell a home, or you're looking, whether it's the first time you've ever done this, I would say that Steve is a definite person you're going to want to call because you want to make great decisions. And it's hard to make a great decision if you don't have the information that you need. And I can promise you, Steve is going to get you that information. And so, like I say at the end of all these other shows, Steve, as I say that first, you can do this. And so if you have the right information, right, it's definitely something you can do. For people who are waiting and sitting on the fence, we talked about market trends today. We said that, the things that you need to know about the market for the type of house that you're going to buy, you need that information. And so if you're just waiting and think you're going to figure it out by reading some blogs, I would probably say that's probably not the way to do it. You want to make sure that you're finding somebody local who knows what they're doing, who's doing it all the time. One, you deserve this. We live in an amazing country that allows us to utilize real estate and utilize markets to be able to create some of our own personal wealth or our generational wealth for our families. And we're able to do that. And so, and last, let us help you. And as you can tell, Steve said he's going to answer his phone. And so that, for a lot of people who just want to text and want to email and that kind of stuff, give the man a call. If you're thinking about it, he gave you the information, you might want to text, but to get the information that you need, I think it starts with a phone call. So I want you to go ahead and do that. And so thank you for being a part of another just incredible, Mile High Real Estate Spotlight podcast. Steve, thank you for coming on. I hope you'll be willing maybe to come on again, and maybe we can do a client story or talk more about, when the market changes, right? We're going to need to talk about because the market is obviously going to change, and it does. And if we're in a different situation in the summer, I'd love to have you back if you're willing to come back.
Well, I'm more than happy to come back. And I really, again, Brian, appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for being part of another show. And we look forward to talking to each of you on the next one. Have an amazing, incredible day today. This is Brian Arnold, and if you are listening to this part, you've just watched one of our episodes of the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight, where we've just talked to one of the best of the best. And I want to thank whichever guest that was here. They are phenomenal. They are amazing. They are the top of the top, the best of the best that are in our industry that are here with us today. And so I encourage you to please call them, pick their brains. They work for you. They enjoy working for you. They are incredibly good at it. And so I want to make sure that you give them a call. So whoever you listen to, whichever one you saw that you were there, please do that. The other thing is everyone deserves a home. Everyone deserves a home. I say that at the end of my show. You deserve it. Let us help you do it. My goal is to make sure that we see homeownership. It just sickens me to see apartment complexes continue to go up, because I know those are people who haven't been able to make the call or figure out a plan. So let us help put that plan together for you. I have some websites that allow you to do that, and I'll put those in the bottom, but please do. I am a lender. I do work in the lending space. If you do not already have somebody who's pre-qualified you, I would love to be able to have that opportunity to earn your business and qualify you. My number is 720-682-2223. That's 720-682-2223. Give me a call anytime. and I would love to be able to help you with that. We also do living trust. And so when we think about an estate, to try to avoid probate and make sure that doesn't happen. So whether it's you, if you own a home, and you should have a living trust. And I will say that everyone not just deserves it, everyone needs a living trust if they own a home. And then finally, just wanted to thank you for watching these episodes. And so please tune into more. Would love for you to see and be able to shop around. So thank you for doing that. Again, I want to make sure that you know that you can do this. You deserve this. And let us help you make it happen. You guys have an awesome, wonderful, awestruck, incredible day today.